Good evening, one and all. Do let us know if there are any audio issues. Please get in touch in the comments. Please get in your questions for us this evening. But it's only a few days to kick off, though. Southampton travel to Newcastle in the longest trip of the season and move to Sunday, of course, for Amazon Prime and the TV coverage. Of course, Newcastle played at Sheffield United on Thursday night. But like Amazon, it delivered 3 points for both clubs this week. So joining us, representing the Toon Army, the Newcastle Fans TV, Rob, good to have you with us. Thanks for giving up your Friday night.
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on.
Indeed. So thanks for coming by once again. And do get your questions in for Rob from Newcastle Fans TV in the comments. Good to see a few of you regulars, actually. Good to see you, Bartlett. Once again, hello, Mark. Yes, we'll get to some positives later on as well. Hello, Nathan. Yeah, doing well. How are you, Rob? Nathan asks.
I'm good. Certainly after last night, Sheffield United, very tough place to go to. Bramall Lane, haven't lost it in September. So yeah, to get 3 points, and in the hilarity scenario that was Jonjo Shelvey's goal last night, that was brilliant.
Well, we'll get to that a bit more detail later on. But who was the last club to beat Sheffield at Bramall Lane?
It was Liverpool.
It was Southampton, wasn't it?
Last team to beat
No, indeed,
Sheffield
you are right.
Bramall
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
I think. Right.
But we of course got 3 points down there in September as well. So that's probably crossing my lines. Good evening up the Saints. He's gone now, so there'll be no Arsenal chat with Unai Emery about him. But let's start then with Saints. How much have you seen of Saints in the last couple of weeks, Rob?
Last couple of weeks, I have seen quite a bit. Well, I'm an avid football fan, and I have to say it's been really difficult for you. It's been really difficult to watch, especially the 9-0 that was just 6 weeks ago. But I think a key thing here is to see how well you've bounced back since. Because I think you had Man City on 2 occasions straight after that 9-0, didn't you? And you gave good fights. You lost both of them, but you gave good fights. You reacted well. And goodness knows how you did not win against Arsenal. Honestly, that game was just there for the taking on many occasions. So yeah, it was a shame that you didn't get 3 points there. But hey ho, and I think you'd probably taken a point before the game began, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think if we feel kind of a bit hard done by, obviously, Arsenal equalised in the 96th minute of time. But I think we've changed our identity a little bit. We've come out with this brand new fresh impetus after this international break. 7 points from the last 3 games. 6 in the last week. So we can't complain about that. And it was important for Saints to win on Wednesday against Norwich. We spoke about an outbreak of happiness on our last show, but this has now become an epidemic for Saints fans.
Well, I guess certainly beating Norwich on Wednesday night, that was massive, because you've got to beat the teams around you, especially if you're trying to avoid relegation. You've got to beat the teams around you. I'd say it's a difficult trip up north for you guys, because on 9% of occasions whenever Newcastle and Southampton play each other, only on 9% of occasions have the away team come away with the win. And that's on 98 of occasions. So later in the season, when we come down to you, that will be the 100th time that Newcastle and Southampton will play each other.
Wow, that's some stat. So you're already starting off the early part of this show with some stats. So I expect some more as we go along, Rob. But great one. And Saints have an awful record at Newcastle in the last few years, but I'm sure we'll get to that in just a moment as well. But let's take a quick look back then. Obviously, this is more for us rather than Newcastle in the next 5 minutes. But Ward-Prowse, I don't know how much of the highlights you've seen, but it was a fantastic Ward-Prowse delivery once again. Finds Ings on the near post header, and again equally in that first half, Ward-Prowse, an excellent delivery, finds Shane Long, who outjumps about 4 defenders, nods it on to Bertrand, who can't miss from a yard. And even speaking to Johnny from your crew for our other show the other day, he said, James Ward-Prowse and Danny Ings are their mans to look out for it on Sunday.
Certainly, Ward-Prowse, everyone knows how dangerous he can really be from set pieces, especially free kicks within about 25, 30 yards from goal. Yeah, he can either put them in the back of the net, or he's more than capable of putting in an excellent ball. Danny Ings, that's another one. Since he's joined Southampton, he seems to have gotten rid of his injury proneness, if that is a word.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, he's back to doing what he does best, getting goals. And I think Southampton is a really good fit for Danny Ings. It was really unfortunate because, especially in 2015, when he got relegated with Burnley, I really wanted Danny Ings because we were sort of in the hunt for a striker. Papi Cisse at the time was beginning to wane. We really wanted Danny Ings as we saw him as a really good replacement. And sadly, he went to Liverpool in the end, where he sort of settled for being third or fourth choice striker and didn't get that much time. But yeah, a team like Southampton is a really good place for him to be.
And indeed, Nathan, he is one of our own, born up in Winchester, living in Winchester, but born down in Netley. Great to see a local lad to finally play for the shirt. But, this is Danny Ings' fourth goal in succession in as many games. He's never done that in the Premier League. He managed kind of 4-5 earlier on the season, but he scored 2 at Pompey in the League Cup game. But this is 4th in a row in Premier League action, and he's on fire at the moment.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's a season that I think you're going to be relying on him. You're going to have to rely on him to stay fit. That is a big ask. And it's also a big ask to try and rely on the goals coming from one player. But, I can't really talk. I'm a Newcastle fan in the sense that we are relying on our defenders to score goals. That's not in their job description. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's given all this build-up, it's probably going to be a drab 0 result or something, knowing my luck.
To be honest, I would say a 0-0, considering our recent awful record at St James's, 3-1 last season, 3-0 the year before. Just a quick comment in from Welsh Gamer. I'm thinking 3-1 Southampton, Ings with a brace and one from Redmond. So feeling optimistic. The epidemic of happiness is going through the comments as well. Nathan mentions that Newcastle won't see Ings as that much of a threat, and he will profit from that. So I think, you've also got a strong pair of centre-halves, and I think what you've got going for you this season is that your centre-halves are scoring goals too. So they're resilient and they're scoring goals. It's kind of opposite to what we look like at the back. We've got shaky defenders, don't know whether they're coming or going half the time, and I think they might struggle with the likes of the physicality of Joe Linton.
Joe Linton, I don't think he would be playing. Certainly not starting. That's how it was last night. He was finally dropped to the bench. He's someone who has been very, I wouldn't say hit and miss, but he's not scoring goals. That is in his job description. He's not scoring goals. He's also fluffing chances. He's been really difficult to try and I'll always support him. But I am really pleased to see him dropped last night, because at the end of the day, just because your price tag is at £40 million, it doesn't give you a God-given right to start. So yes, and I think he did a good job. And we've also got Dwight Gale knocking on the door as well for that starting position. Because at the moment, I'm all for the system that we're playing with the 5 at the back, or 3 at the back with wing backs, if you like, whatever you want to call it. We have 2 centre mids, and then we've got 2 wingers, 2 attacking wingers, along with a sole striker. I'm liking that system. Don't change the system, but interchange the people around it. Joe Linton, I was glad to see, was dropped. Hopefully, it will get a reaction out of him. Time will tell, of course, but hopefully that'll get a reaction out of him to see that his place in the squad is not given, and that he might feel a bit threatened, and so he will feel the need to perform well. That can get a really good reaction out of a player.
That's interesting. You mentioned that, actually. Joe Linton, his record speaks for himself this season with £40 million price tag. That's something out of a different universe that Saints would never even consider to pay £40 million. And then to come off with only 1 goal so far this season and just 1 assist. What would you put that down to? Do you think he's just isolated up top?
I think it's a combination of both the lack of service. I think he's well within his rights to feel really annoyed, because last season when he was playing for Hoffenheim in the Bundesliga, the crosses were coming in from Czech Republic's Pavel Kadajabek and Nico Schultz, who now plays for Dortmund. And those two players are excellent crossers of the ball, prolific at it, and they know how to hit the money on. They know how to get it right on the money. They get the ball into the box quickly. What we don't do, however, especially I've noticed this with DeAndre Yedlin, sometimes with Javi Manquillo, even sometimes with Jetro Willems, we seem to get into a decent crossing position, and it's either a case of Joe Linton isn't quite ready, but on the occasions when he is ready to receive the ball, he's there, ready and waiting. We just seem to stop. We just stop, and then we go back, and then we end up not even threatening the box, let alone the goal. So it was very concerning. But at the same time, at times, Joe Linton, he's just, at the times when we get into a good crossing position and he's just not busting a gut to get into the right position. I remember last week against Manchester City, Almiron, he put in an excellent ball across goal. Joe Linton was just outside the box. He should have been right there, and he wasn't really busting a gut. That's been a big problem. So now I think the way we played last night with Carroll up top on his own, the object of the game was simple. Carroll's 6 foot, whatever. He's going to nod the ball down. He's going to nod the ball on, just like Shelvey's goal last night. So yes, I think the game plan with Carroll, it's clear. We know where he's going to be, and I think that's just what you need in a squad. Because Joe Linton, it's either lacking from the teammates or he's either lacking himself, and we just can never seem to get the two on the same wavelength.
You're almost questioning Joe Linton's commitment to the cause, Andy Carroll, was that his first start of the season against Sheffield United? And Mark asks, will he be fit for Sunday? I don't think I've seen Carroll play 2 games in a week for a long time.
Well, to be honest, I was really surprised last night that he was able to last the whole 90 minutes. So 2 games in a week in the space of 3 or 4 days. It's going to be a big ask for him, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if he would be subbed off. If he starts, that is, he will either be subbed on or subbed off, no matter what it is. And Joe Linton or Gale, can't say I mind whoever comes on in his place.
But look, positivity for Saints though this season, this week now, out of the bottom 3. I think Newcastle have been floating around that, flirting with it for the last few seasons, but you've been comfortably above that drop zone recently. And I asked Johnny the other day, was it Steve Bruce at the beginning of the season, a very much uninspiring appointment, but how would you kind of rate him so far this season?
Oh, it's definitely got to be a high rating, because I think he came into that really hostile environment because at the time it looked as if we weren't getting any manager. I think after Rafa officially left at the end of end of June, it was a good 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, pre-season had already started before we got Bruce in, so there was a good 2 or 3 weeks of just playing the waiting game. And so to have arrived in the middle of pre-season, to have arrived into a hostile environment where a lot of Newcastle fans were unfortunately simply didn't take to Bruce just because he wasn't at the same caliber as Rafa. I know that's a bold statement, but it's true. Some fans just still don't seem to respect him just because he's a so-called championship level manager. Not the words I would use personally, but from what I've read and heard. So he came in the middle of pre-season. He's come into a hostile environment. As always, we never seemed, when transfer window comes, whenever we do splash the cash, it often takes a while for the new signings to step up. Like we've seen Joe Linton, yes, it's been we haven't seen the value for money for the £40 million yet. Almiron, I think he puts in the occasional good performances, but 1 assist and no goals since arriving in January, £20 million all of a sudden. Seems to be, we're still yet to see the good value for money. So, and then Saint-Maximin, yes, we've seen good value for money. We absolutely love Alan Saint-Maximin. So in terms of the transfers, and to see how well he has got the players to perform, considering that this level, I question sometimes whether it is a Premier League quality squad. And I think it's borderline Premier League quality, Championship quality. So I think to be in this position, 11th, level on points with Arsenal, at this stage, we are in December now. So it's definitely a high rating. I speak really highly of him. For the first time last night, I heard Newcastle fans actually chanting Steve Bruce's name. So hopefully this is a turn for the good. Steve Bruce, let's be honest, he's here for the long run, and I'm glad to see him. So I'll give him a solid 8 out of 10 for his contribution to the season so far.
That's a pretty fair rating. I'd actually, it's pretty good actually. Slowly winning over the fans, and this result, the Leicester result for us actually comes back to bite us every single time in press conferences, and no one will ever let us live it down. There we go, tongue tied. But the board have come out and backed Ralph Hasenhüttl, and he's suddenly got the players now playing for a system. Now we seem to start and build some consistency at the moment. We're playing a 4-4-2 formation since the international break, and I think the team is starting to get to know each other better than they did before, because Ralph was playing all different sorts of formations and tactics, and I think almost we looked a bit disjointed on the 3-5-2 or the 5-3-2, however you want to see it, but equally on paper, Steve Bruce plays a 5-4-1. It doesn't inspire many people, many hearts if you see that every single week. But actually, a comment from Nathan says that the pace of Yedlin will make it even harder for Bertrand and Bednarek this weekend. So tell us the importance then of Yedlin, and remind me your left back.
Left back, Jetro Willems.
He's scored a couple of goals this season too, hasn't he?
Yes, against Liverpool and Man City. He's been excellent, because back in August, Matt Ritchie got injured. We're still waiting for him to come back. That will most likely happen in the new year. Willems, he's been excellent in terms of he's really good at getting forward, and he's two-footed. I still don't know whether he prefers his left foot or his right foot. He's that strong on both feet. But on the initial question of DeAndre Yedlin, he's very hit and miss. I mean, it was 4 weeks ago, when we played Bournemouth 1-2-1, got the man of the match, and completely deservedly. I think that defensively, that was his best performance, and he got himself a goal as well, his first at St James's Park. But then 2 weeks later after the international break, he goes and concedes a needless foul against Aston Villa, which they score from, and that opened the floodgates in that game. So there are times when he's got plenty of positives as a right back, but then he has plenty of flaws as well, which he can easily exploit. So he is a bit hit and miss for me. He's not perfect, but I think he's probably the best right back that we have at the club.
I think he was on Saints' radar a few years ago, but actually lots of comments coming in now. Actually, Mark asks, Shelvey's the danger man. He remembers the goal he scored against us for Swansea. When he is in the right mood, he is very good. And of course, he highlighted that on Thursday night, playing to the whistle. You learn this from day one as a child. When you learn to kick a ball, the coach says play to the whistle, and he did exactly that, kind of breaking past the Sheffield defence, who just appeared asleep. They sort of gave up. Carroll with a nod on. Shelvey kind of walks the ball into the back of the net, and it's 2-0, and you guys go mad on the away end.
Yeah, it was incredible last night, because from the away end you couldn't tell whether it was offside or not, but because, well, for me personally, saw that the linesman put his flag up straight away long before Shelvey put the ball in the net. And I just thought he is probably offside, because the linesman was that confident. And the longer that the goal check went on, the more I thought, this could actually be really close. And then eventually, when it came up on the screen saying decision goal, just limbs everywhere, limbs and beer sort of pouring around. It was incredible scenes. But yes, Jonjo Shelvey. One thing I really want to commend him for recently is, since Lascelles got injured 4 weeks ago, he was the one that put his hand up and said, I'm taking responsibility for the captaincy. He has had experience of being the captain at the club before, but not in terms of recently. And to be honest, before then, his performances were very shaky. I mean, in the last 18 months or so under Rafa, it just wasn't the same Jonjo Shelvey that we saw in the Championship in 2016-17. And then Jonjo Shelvey, again, under Steve Bruce, it took him a while to sort of reignite that form. I remember when we played Brighton at the end of September, he was just terrible. He was quite obsessed with those Hollywood balls. But now I think Bruce, he's probably off the pitch. he's probably put his arm around him and said, you know what, just do what you do best. And I think Shelvey's actually cottoned on, and he's realised, you know, perhaps the Hollywood ball just like every time isn't the best option. And since then, I can't fault the man. Can't fault the man. He's been an excellent leader as well. So yes, let's hope that we can keep this Jonjo Shelvey that we know and love, like for the time being, and hopefully it doesn't go back to another part of Jonjo Shelvey that we sadly know and don't really love.
Well, of course, he scored another cracking goal against Man City a couple of weeks ago too. But we're going to try and get to as many of these comments as possible. Actually, Welsh Gamer comes up and says the problem with Shelvey is the discipline. Had a few reds over the last year or so.
Yeah, sorry, like I was just sort of slipping down as my phone was vigorously vibrating. Yes, Shelvey, I think he's sorted out his discipline issues, because yes, there was certainly something there 2 seasons ago, 2017-18. He picked up 2 red cards, one of which he received a 3-match ban for, and then a second came in December 2 years ago. And after that, before the 2018 World Cup, he wasn't booked at all. Wasn't even sent off at all for the remainder of that season. And so, yeah, there was huge questions being asked of Gareth Southgate. I remember when the World Cup squad was announced that Shelvey wasn't included, citing disciplinary issues when he hadn't been disciplined at all for a good 6 months beforehand. But yeah, he's certainly not the... He was prone to sort of losing his head a bit back then, but now certainly under Rafa, certainly got him back on the straight and narrow on the disciplinary front.
Right, a couple of questions about your goalkeeper. In fact, Jonathan asks, Magpies have a decent goalkeeper in defence, whilst we have decent forms and options up front. Could make for a decent game. I think it could be quite cagey, actually. And Dubravka, as you know, originally came in on loan, didn't he? Signed on a permanent transfer kind of last season or in the summer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but looks like an excellent shot stopper and has kept plenty of opportunities out. And, kept you in the game, and could even be said, almost helping hand for the recent draw with Man City. And, some of the fantastic wins you've had so far at home this season. And in fact, unbeaten at home since the first weekend against Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, we lost at home in the League Cup second round back in August. But yes, we're still unbeaten at home since August. Dubravka, he's been ever present in the league since he made his debut in February 2018. In a 1-0 win against Man United. Honestly, he has been our best goalkeeper at the club since Shay Given. We've had a fair few goalkeepers since, but his shot stopping, his distribution isn't perfect, but his shot stopping, whenever he gets called upon, is incredible. And to say that he's the best goalkeeper since Shay Given, when Shay Given had a defence of Titus Bramble and John Allen Boomsong in front of him, that is quite an achievement to be mentioned in the same breath as the Irish legend.
How do you feel about the pace of Djenepo and Redmond and Long at the weekend then? We seem to do better against 5 at the back and sort of against Arsenal and Wolves. So, in fact, a couple of comments asking about where I'm going to find it. Sofiane Boufal, who was out with the game, he missed out on Wednesday night through sort of a doubt by stubbing his toe against his kitchen table, but made a difference against Watford. And he's been fantastic. All the trickery, all the tricks, the turns, twisting defenders inside out. How do you think Newcastle defenders can deal with that attacking almost trio? And in fact, of course, Danny Ings up front too, scoring all different types of goals.
Okay, how can I put this without sounding really insulting towards Southampton? Our defence, we have proven to have dealt with harder attacking prowess, like we did against Tottenham, even Man City. We even, with the likes of Sterling, De Bruyne, Jesus, Bernardo Silva, you name it, we only conceded 2 goals, both of which were completely unstoppable in my view. So Southampton, my big question would be, do you think you can pose a greater attacking threat than Manchester City? It's a big question. I mean, I like Djenepo, excellent new signing, and I think he could have a huge impact on you this season. Redmond and Shane Long, I will admit, I haven't really rated them massively.
This
know
season
I'm
or
not one
previous seasons?
previous seasons, this season as well. Redmond just doesn't seem to be creative. He's not the full article when you want a winger. And I think the stats for Shane Long it was something like when he scored when he got his first goal under Hassan Hooper, wasn't there a stat to say that he scored his last 6 goals have come under 4 different Southampton managers?
Yeah,
Something like that, something along those lines.
Yeah, it was 5 goals with 5 managers.
Yeah. So, to be honest, there's a greater attacking threat there with Danny Ings. It's simple as that, really.
But Shane Long's kicked on since then, actually, and he went on a bit of a purple patch there at the tail end of last season. Scored the fastest ever goal at Watford too,
Yeah.
and to be honest, it wouldn't be so far removed to say that he'll be starting at the weekend. He has scored at St James's Park a few years ago, and I think, as I say, it's important for Saints to keep the consistency. I would quickly run you through my lineup if you want to fire through your comments on YouTube. I would go with McCarthy in goal. Cedric, I'm not been impressed by this season. Seems to be wanting away, obviously linked with Milan apparently this week, and his attitude's come into question. And, perhaps at fault and caught napping a few times so far this season with long balls down, especially actually Wednesday night. The long ball down the right-hand side. Timo Pukki gets in between Stevens and Cedric. So certainly something to consider there. Left back, got to be Bertrand. Centre backs or Stevens and Bednarak. Stick with the same two. Stevens looks like he's pushing on at the moment, coming into his own, starting to become a little bit more composed. He's had his critics, and I've defended him for the last sort of three weeks or so. Midfield, I think you got to stick with Højbjerg and Ward-Prowse. Excellent deliveries from Ward-Prowse. Højbjerg seems to be getting forward every now and then, given the license to do so. And with the outside wingers of let's go Gineppo, Redmond, and then Ings and Long up front. Same team as Wednesday. Keep the consistency. What about you?
What would be my Newcastle lineup?
Yeah, I mean Southampton.
Okay.
Just joking, Newcastle.
Okay, no brainer. Martin Dubravka, it's got to be. And then, okay, I would usually go with. I'm a big believer in the phrase, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So in theory, I would go for more or less the same lineup as last night. However, a 3-day break, there's bound to be some tired legs in there. So my opinion might change over the coming days, perhaps. Right wing back, Javi Manquillo. Centre backs. Okay, so we have 3 centre backs. Last night, Paul Dummett, Kieran Clark, Federico Fernandez. They're really performing at the moment, but at the same time, they are arguably our 4th, 5th, and 6th choice centre backs, ahead of Fabian Schär, Jamal Lascelles, and Florian Lejeune. Lejeune's been knocking on the door in terms of coming back, but he hasn't played since April. Lascelles, as we know, is out till New Year. I want to see Fabian Schär back because he's been on the bench and been an unused substitution since coming back since the international break. I want to see him back because he's an excellent defender. I know we're keeping clean sheets at the same time, but Dubravka was worked really hard last night, and it was only because of him that we ended up winning the game. If it weren't for him, we'd have lost. Simple as that. So I think we need a little bit of a change in there in defence, and it's got to be Paul Dummett that has to make way for Fabian Schär for me. So Fabian Schär, Federico Fernandez, and Kieran Clark would be my centre backs. Left wing back, it's Jetro Willems. Had a little bit of a quiet night last night, so I don't think he would be too fatigued. Mainly because he had a quiet night, mainly because it was Javier Manquillo that was getting exploited down Sheffield United's left side, our right. Centre back, central midfield. Now this is where it really does get difficult. Well, Jonjo Shelvey, you've got to play him, I think. Performances wise, and the fact that he's the standing captain at the moment, you've got to play him. Question is who partners him. Isaac Hayden is arguably our best central midfielder at the moment at the club, but you want to see Sean Longstaff, maybe Matty Longstaff, but I think primarily it's got to be Sean Longstaff, who's now proven at this level. I think we haven't seen him since he got sent off against Wolves back in late October. So we want to see him back, hit the ground running, because we want Sean Longstaff to become a legend at Newcastle. And you need to give him so much first team exposure, and he deserves it as well. We need to give him so much first team exposure as we possibly can. And then the front 3, I think St. Maximin will probably be a doubt because he was feeling it in his ankle last night and it was all strapped up with ice and what have you. So I would be surprised if he would be fit to start, in which case, if that is true, I would go for Christian Atsu on the left, Miguel Almiron on the right. Up top, I'm assuming Andy Carroll is not going to be 100% fit to face the full 90 minutes, so I would go for Dwight Gale in that sense.
Okay, interesting actually. Bobby Mack mentioned earlier, Saint Maximin is unreal, as good as Ings headed goal on Thursday night against Sheffield. So, looks like it's kicking on a little bit. He kind of comes in and out of games, doesn't he? He turns it on when he wants. A bit like some of the Saints players, to be fair, right? But of course, Saints have had a horrible record at St James's recently. I mentioned it could be quite a cagey game, and I think this is a game that I think both will look at. That we can get something out of. Obviously, with Newcastle's record so far this season at home, Saints will want to go up there. We play better away from home. Having said that, after 2 home wins, but I think we've got an opportunity to get a draw here, and Joe agrees with me here with a prediction 1-1. But we do struggle against teams defensively.
Yeah, I think one thing in particular is that when we take the lead and when we go into a second half, when we're still 1 goal up, what tends to happen is that we just sit back and we just we just allow attack after attack to come at us. That is going to be a big problem. That has been a big problem of late in terms of we just seem to easily let go of leads in that sense. And even after that, we end up coming away from matches saying that we were lucky to draw that. So it's a big problem that we have at the moment. One, I think, yes, we were certainly lucky in that respect last night because we tried that last night. It only happened, that massive stroke of luck with the VAR, that Shelvey got that goal in the second half. But yes, if you're 1-0 down at half-time, if Southampton are 1-0 down at half-time, don't despair, because I think, yes, we just invite pressure on ourselves. And at times we have reached breaking point, like we did against Wolves, like we almost did against West Ham, 3-0 up at half time, and then we just 3-0 up after 55 minutes, and we just invited pressure for the remainder of the game, and we were lucky to win it at the end.
Jonathan mentioned that we tend to like teams that do not press us, which Newcastle isn't renowned for. As you say, they like to step off. Right, yeah. Get your score predictions in the comments. We'll try and wrap this up shortly. But Rob, what are you going for then? How are you feeling this weekend? Obviously, Saints building a bit of momentum at the moment. Hopefully, we can continue some of that on Sunday afternoon.
I think it's going to be 2-1 to Newcastle United. I think it's the long drive down for Southampton that it always seems to take it out of them. Like I say, on occasions when Newcastle and Southampton play each other, on 9% of occasions the away team wins. So that is going to be a big factor in it, I think. Also, your defence. I mean, that your second half record, this season, has been terrible. I'm sorry, there's no other way I can gloss that up. It's been terrible. There for the taking. It'll probably be 0-0 at half time, but I think we'll get the next 2 goals, and you might just grab an 86th minute consolation goal, which might set us up for a grandstand finish, but I think we'll have enough on our defence to see the game out.
So Piers goes with 2-1. Welsh Gaming goes 3-1. George goes 2-2. Jonathan with 2-2. To be honest, I would take a 2-2. I'll snap the round off of that right now, actually. Continue a bit of unbeaten results since the international break. 1 game at a time, though, folks. And Raul said we need to score first. If Newcastle sit back, they'd win. They'd win like they beat Spurs. But 3-1 to the Saints. Lots of positivity.
Yeah, you have never beaten us at home, well, at St James's Park by more than 2 goals before, and even still, that came in the only time that's happened came in the late 40s.
Well, St James's Park was a happy hunting ground in the 90s when we had Matt Letizia scored some great goals up there, but. Let's hope we can channel our inner Letizia this weekend. But great stuff, Rob. Really good to speak to you. Thanks for giving up your Friday night. And thank you all in the comments as well. And just remind us all where we can find you as well, mate.
Thank you very much for having me on. And yes, it's great to meet you at last, Freddie.
Great stuff. And thank you, one and all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments.